Peter Michaels.
Patrick Bateman again.
Wednesday is the day that we release episodes, and in this case, also the night that we recorded this interview.
Way too far ahead of yourself. That comes at the end.
I am. Well, it's not always that we record this mere moments after we've gotten off the line with our guest of the episode.
No, it's pretty random. Sometimes, would you say we're not the most organized?
No, I wouldn't say it's organization. I think it's more tolerance of each other.
There's only so much. We just spent an hour fighting over who gets to ask a question. We'll do intros extras later.
With the Dan Mangan episode, you called in from Zoom, Dan logged off, and I said, screw you, Peter Michaels. I'm out of here. We'll record the intro extra in 3 days.
I don't think it was that bad. But
no,
whatever.
it was fine. It was
Whatever.
fine. But yeah, very excited. That was a great chat. We haven't even talked about the chat.
This is the beginning, right?
Yeah.
So we don't even know who we're chatting with.
Well, we do now.
We just know it was a great chat.
It was Reuben Bullock.
Reuben Bullock.
Bullock.
Which, I get excited about the name Bullock because I'm rewatching Deadwood.
Yes,
yes. Which has the famous character of Seth Bullock.
Yep.
So I just had the Bullock, and I would just, anyways, I had to clear my mind if it's not Seth Bullock. It's Reuben Bullock.
Yeah, from Reuben in the Dark. No stranger to Red Deer.
One of those, and very similar to Dan Mangan that we had talked to in the last episode, of just one of those moments where it's just that crowd interaction, that sense of community of everybody together. Reuben is smack dab in the middle of all of that action, and everybody's just there in that room together as one singing. It's a beautiful, beautiful sight.
That is a good word for it. Beautiful.
It's beautiful.
No doubt.
Yep.
So yeah, he called in from his, you're going to hear it. I'd go so far as to say compound.
Compound, sure.
In the desert of California. So we're going to talk lots about that. But what's going on? You're what's going on? You're a little distracted right now.
I'm distracted.
So you had your phone. I have a rule where I hate having my phone at the table or in my pocket.
Why?
Because I have vibra anxiety.
Is that what it is?
Yeah. So it's just like habitually grabbing for my phone.
So do you, like, the minute your phone buzzes, you're on it to see what's going on?
My phone. I don't have my phone on vibrate ever.
So how do you, doesn't that cause the anxiety?
Anxiety, dude. It's a real word.
Wow, okay.
I'm
pretty good at shutting it, whatever.
But you shut it down today. You put your phone in airplane mode, and there's a very good reason why you did that.
Well, I don't like being disturbed while we're doing the interview, so I do put it into airplane mode. But yes, we are right at the end of the baseball season, and I do get notifications with score changes throughout the game, so I figured it probably best to not be distracted while talking to Reuben.
Yeah,
but it is. We're right down to the nitty gritty of the baseball season, and
he's looking at his phone again. I was thinking about the other day, if I talked about it would be impossible for me to talk about F1 as much as you talk about
I don't
baseball.
know that that's necessarily true.
It is, because F1 is either every second weekend or every week for a 2-week stretch. You watch 15 hours of baseball a week?
Yeah, I guess that's probably because they are the game the other night was 4 hours.
I mean,
and they do play 162.
How long is Godfather 1 and 2?
Yeah, you could probably sit through those a little easier than going through some baseball games.
I
love it, and I find it so relaxing.
No, it's cool. It's cool. I mean, it's not cool, but I'm happy for you.
It's pretty cool.
I don't know how cool baseball is. Is baseball cool? I'm joking. Anyways,
there's a pretty good music angle to it as well, which I love following along with. Is obviously, as we know, guys have walk-up music. So when they walk up to bat, there's a certain song that plays.
Every time,
and it's great. So the Giants have played the Colorado Rockies quite a bit lately, and there's a player on the Rockies, Charlie Blackmon, whose walk-up music is the outfield, "Your Love." I don't want to lose your love.
Okay.
And for whatever reason, the crowd just emphasizes the word tonight. So I'd noticed, I was listening to the game on the radio, and I'm like, why are they playing this song so much? But then I realized it was his walk-up music. But the entire friggin' crowd, all you hear in the background is the crowd, I don't want to lose your love tonight. Like, they all just lose their minds to it. It's fantastic.
And they do that every time they're at bat?
So 4 times a game?
Man, what are they, professional wrestlers?
So it's very similar, right?
Totally.
The Giants have a guy named Wilmer Flores, and I forget exactly where he's from, but he didn't speak English when he came over here to play baseball, and he learned to speak English by watching Friends. So what's his walk-up music?
No idea. I have no idea.
The theme from Chips.
From Chips?
No, the theme from Friends.
Okay.
Every time he comes up to bat,
that's his theme.
The Friends
song.
theme plays in the stadium.
Sorry, how long have we been talking about baseball? 4.5 minutes.
So how about this F1 thing? What is that? It's
been an amazing season. It's been unbelievable.
The Australian's pretty good, isn't he? Oh.
Not my driver, but anyways, we won't talk about F1. We won't talk about sports because we are on the road, the stage. We talk to musicians, artists, touring acts.
And we're going to talk a lot about perseverance in this
adversity.
In this chat, adversity for sure.
Realizing things can get worse.
But beauty can still come out of those situations.
Yeah, totally. So thanks to Reuben Bullock for joining us. Shout out to Ryan and Ryley here producing in the Communal Creative Studios. Who else are we shouting out this evening today?
We talk about community a lot. And I love that everybody that we have supporting the show is also very much about community. Go Services, Inc., who donate so much of their services to a lot of different charity events. And they've been showing up at a bunch of golf courses. Obviously, Sawback Brewing Company here in Red Deer, very proud to support local community. We've got Tourism Red Deer that supports us as well. And they've got a huge campaign on right now just celebrating Red Deer and everything that it's got to offer. So, and of course, Beau's Barn Stage, which is a gathering place for us. So the theme of community, I think, comes up quite a bit on this show.
Yeah.
And it's just awesome that everybody involved with it has that same mindset.
Yeah. And if any of us are left in Alberta at the end of this, then we'll all be able to enjoy the community together.
100%. Yes.
Yeah, I don't know. Do you want to get into it?
Let's talk to Reuben in the dark.
Okay. How's it going, man?
It's going pretty good. Yeah. Just got back to the desert. I was back up in Canada for a couple weeks. So just got back here 2 days ago.
You were up to some pretty cool business in Canada, right? Is that's what you were saying? Well, it was pretty recent?
Yeah. I mean, lots of things. I guess I did two trips. I was up there for almost a month last month, and then about 3 weeks this time. So yeah, it's been nice. The last couple months, the majority of my time has been back in Canada.
And where is home? Where's home base for you now?
Well,
is there one?
Yeah, these are strange days. Like, so I'm in Joshua Tree, California. And so this is my home at the moment. But it was not really something I was like planning. We were on tour and COVID hit and everyone kind of bolted, and we were in the States and kind of got everyone to an airport to get home. And then I had packed up my apartment in Montreal because we were supposed to be on tour for like a year. So instead of going back to Canada and staying in an Airbnb, I just went to Joshua Tree. And here I am.
Well, there's worse places you could have ended up. That's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It is interesting though, because we've talked to two artists now in the last few months that have spent a good part of the pandemic instead of in Canada, down in California. Newman Manis was out by Joshua Tree. Well, kind of close, anyways. But what is this room we're looking at right now? Is this the makeshift Joshua Tree studio?
Yeah. Kind of. It's like it's a bit of I don't know. I mean, I can probably pull this thing. There's like kind of studio, like got a piano. Wow. Someone left a YouTube light in my house, so that's not my normal. But I was like, man, I'm going to be a professional here.
get influencing.
So, yeah. I haven't started my vlog yet, but it's when it comes time, I have the proper lighting, so that's the most important part.
So with you being down there, just real quick, when was the last time you lived in Calgary proper?
So in Calgary was, it's funny because I kind of Calgary is always hometown. So I like never have really been too vocal about living other places, but I moved to Toronto. I moved to Toronto in 2014, I think. So since then I spend so much time in Calgary, but I haven't actually lived in Calgary since 2015.
Okay.
Yeah.
And 2014 is when your first record came out, right?
Yeah. So on the, I think it was maybe 2013, 2014. And on the heels of that, I was just kind of like, okay, maybe like we just toured so much that I didn't live anywhere. So I thought that being out there, being closer to the record label, being closer to my management and booking agent while I was at like not on tours, it was probably a good idea to be in Toronto. So yeah, the move kind of happened on the heels of putting out the record and saying like, okay, maybe I should spend a little bit of time trying to like figure out the industry side of things.
Mm-hmm. And you did that.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, and then like I lasted in Toronto like 2 years until I moved out into the country outside of Toronto, and I was like, okay, this is the sweet spot, because it's like where I am now too, like right outside of LA. It's cool. You can go in and do all the things you need to do, but my natural kind of habitat is I like to be away from everybody and like retreat and recluse as much as possible.
Did you have any spots like that around Calgary that you go to? There's so many great escapes just outside of Calgary.
Yeah.
What were some of the spots that you'd go to for that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, one of my favorite areas that I would just kind of go explore, and especially just for drives, is that kind of like, is it 22X highway to Crow's Nest Pass?
Yeah.
Something about that, it's really strange too. There's this highway that kind of comes up into the high desert, and maybe I'm crazy, but I think the reason I like it so much out here is because it really reminds me of when you kind of start approaching like the windmills and you see the foothills kind of turn into the mountains. There's a junction on the two highways close to Palm Springs where it's like the California version of that. And every time I drive home, like I drive through it, and it kind of reminded me of every time I drive home into Calgary, like the same kind of feelings. But I also really like Kananaskis. I mean, I'm a skateboarder too. Like, so in Calgary, like I had so much skateboard time, and that, so my spots, my like special spots they very much involve, handrail or like a lead, like my like retreat, my like solstice spots, like involve some kind of skateboard obstacle. Especially at the time I lived in Calgary.
Seeking I was reading through some of your Instagram posts, but seeking your spirituality through nature and also sweet paved.
Yeah, totally.
Skate parks.
It's like the biggest juxtaposition ever. Yeah. That's yeah. But both of those things, I mean, I do like, I find I recharge from spending time around like trees and forests and rivers, and I also really recharge from spending time on concrete with a skateboard. So.
And did you get to do a lot more skateboarding over the course of the pandemic as things slowed down? Were you able to kind of maintain that?
Yeah, a little bit. Like it's funny. I mean, it's turned into this thing where I kind of need it. Like I've heard lots of people talk about exercise routines and how if they don't get up and they don't go jogging in the morning or do yoga or go to the gym, like they have issues. And I think that like skateboarding is like that for me. Like I find if I go a couple weeks and I don't go skateboarding, that I get this weird pent up feeling like I have to exhaust a certain part of me. So I actually, over this pretty bizarre, so I like on a whim bought this house and 5 acres in the middle of nowhere. And I've also been building a skateboard park.
Oh,
so
wow.
Yeah. So it's like it's a kind of like a childhood dream thing, like 100%. And it's super bizarre. And I don't think anyone in my life understands how like awesome it is. We're like,
and totally therapeutic, right? Like,
yeah, completely. Like, no, the days, like, cause that, we all have gone through so much shit, and like to be like, I get how like stupid lucky it is that I can do something like that. And, but man, it's therapy. It's therapy because it takes me back to what I did as a child. And, for me to have that like direct link to when I was 13 years old, and I get it. Like every time I hop on a skateboard and I'm trying to figure out some trick that is totally meaningless in my life and in everyone else's around me, but it's something that I can just like fully shut everything out, focus on how I'm going to like make a skateboard flip and lock into a rail, and I'll spend hours and the whole world disappears. So it's cool that I have that now. Like I can walk out my door and just, yeah. Cause like you can't skateboard in the desert. There's no pavement. The roads aren't even paved. It's all just dust and sand.
So how do you go about building a recreational skate park on your property? Like, is there a YouTube video for that or something?
Man, I'm deep in like I kind of took this place, and I've been in just this hole of like, I'll wake up in the morning and I will like rip the back wall off of my house without thinking about what I want to do. I just get this kind of wave of, okay, I need to demolish something, and then I'll just figure it out. And so I've taken this place and completely gutted it and renovated it in a very unconventional way. So it's super quirky and it's really weird, and every single room is different, and I'm just trying out all these different building techniques. And I realized I've been on tour for a decade of my life. I haven't had it like 2 weeks at home ever, you know? And so I think I'm realizing that, like, I thought that touring was my thing, but I think what my thing actually is that I need to be kind of going full bore at something all the time, and something that feels kind of ridiculous to the people around me, which a lot of people in my life with music are like, how can you tour? How can you drive from city to city to city and do all this stuff? Like, that, don't you get exhausted? Doesn't it? How do you have friends? How do you have a relationship? How do you have all these? And I'm starting to learn about myself that it's like, it's not that I didn't like pick that necessarily, because it, like, I always kind of felt like I was this reluctant musician where I never decided to sign up for something like that. And the more you gain an audience and whatever, and then all of a sudden you have to tour and you have to do these things. But it's actually more like I'm pretty natural, just like doing these ridiculous things and exhausting myself, whether I'm on tour, and just like expending so much energy every day. Because it turns out when I'm not on tour, I'm doing the same ridiculous thing, but at my house, like waking up earlier than I need to wake up and putting some huge task in front of me that seems impossible. And it's kind of haven't missed a beat, although I miss touring. But I've just realized that I'm still at a place in my life where I just want to like create and do things and challenge myself. And so now I have this like house where I can kind of take out all that energy, which is awesome.
Well, and the fact of the matter is, you do have a construction background, right? Like, you ran a construction company. So, it's maybe not it maybe could be that Reuben is creating the YouTube videos for other people to watch. On.
But the skateboard thing, I was like, I haven't done any concrete work before. And so I've learned how to do concrete work and how to weld, which has been really cool. So that was like a pandemic thing where and I was telling a friend recently that like a lot of people get like obsessed with tattoos, you know, and you're always thinking like, what's your next tattoo? What's your next tattoo? And with me, it's concrete now, where like I get a concrete truck shows up, and as soon as it's done, I'm like, okay, when can I call this concrete truck again? What else? Because it's that same sense of permanence. I realize it's exactly the feelings I had when I was kind of chasing new tattoos and stuff. But I've gone like crazier with concrete than I have with tattoos.
I'm almost picturing it's California. Yeah. So is there an empty pool in the backyard that you're using as part of this design?
No, not yet. Not yet.
Yeah, exactly. So, so you go to bed at night, you wake up the next morning, and you rip down a wall. Were you thinking about ripping down that wall the night before?
No. And but that's kind of like, and then everything's like 95% finished too, because so I get the project to like 95%, where I just have to finish like a couple pieces, and then I get this weird inspiration to just do something else. And it's okay. Luckily, when the concrete truck showed up last time, I was feeling a little self-conscious about building a skate park and not doing something that added value to the house. So I did like pour a foundation for like a little guest house that I've been building too. Okay. So I'm trying to balance it. So like I'm not thinking about flipping. It would be really difficult to sell this house. It's so quirky now. So I'm really just kind of making it like this cool little dreamland for my 16-year-old self.
Man, that sounds incredible. You
never know what it could turn. Have you ever heard of the Winchester House?
No.
It's
maybe
it's in San Jose, and if I remember correctly, what the story was is it was the widow of the Winchester Empire, like the Winchester rifles.
Oh,
yeah. And her husband had died, and in her dreams, all of the people that had ever been killed by a Winchester rifle.
Oh my God.
The ghosts came and haunted her and told her to build this house for all these souls to live in. So there's this house in San Jose where she just kept adding on to it, adding a room here, adding a room there. There's a set of stairs that goes nowhere. There's like just like it's just wacky. It's just this huge mansion. Obviously, she was very, very wealthy and was able to do this. But I'm not saying you're that level yet. But who knows? Maybe you're building a tourist attraction.
Yeah. No, I need to tune in a little deeper to my my dark ghosts that are actually motivating,
influencing you to build a skate park.
Yeah.
Wow.
No, I mean, what I want to do out here is have like a place that the band can come out. I mean, they've even come out a couple times during COVID. Luckily, we have visas, so they can cross the border. And I mean, we've been working on a new record, and it felt so good to have everyone in the house making music, and so that inspired it a lot too. And we're also like throwing a mini music festival here next weekend. So I kind of want it to be a playground, like the property to be a playground and somewhere that people can come and stay and create. So yeah, I mean, I do a lot of stuff in different communities in Canada. Like I kind of, whatever it is, I'm drawn to working with people and collaborating, and so far in the States, I've been really reclusive. And so I think I'm trying to make this house a place that can be an extension of that kind of desire to create some community and just have people come and collaborate and stay and create, and also it can just be a cool getaway for the band to come down and hang out, or for my family or friends.
So what's this festival going to look like?
Well, it's going to be, we're kind of capping it at, I think 100 or 120 people.
Wow.
Just because of the COVID stuff, and it's like but it's at least in California, it's the one place, as far as I know, where the numbers have started to actually go down, which is great, and hopefully it stays that way. So yeah, we have a pretty cool lineup of bands, mostly from LA. I don't know if you guys know the Darcys.
Oh yeah,
the band
totally.
from Toronto. Yeah, so they're coming actually.
Very
So
cool.
we got another Canadian act on the stage. But yeah, it's kind of like the beginning of like a friends festival. There's the area I'm in particular is called Landers. It's about 10 miles north of the Joshua Tree Park.
Okay.
But there's a lot of people in this area that have these bumper stickers that say "Go back to LA." Like they hate that so many people come out here from LA, and it's kind of there's a bit of a redneck, tight-knit community out here that can be a bit aggressive. So we're calling the festival "Go Back to Landers," but kind of like with the capital LA, just as like a joke, because everyone from this area is always yelling at people to go back to LA. So this is like the "Go Back to Landers" festival.
You're a busy guy. Some people learned how to bake bread during the pandemic, and you got up to all that. You're hosting a mini music festival, and if I'm correct, you're heading into the studio tomorrow, right?
Yeah. So yeah, that's another thing I've really been working on during the last year and a half. We had some like really cool success in like the film, TV sync world.
Mm-hmm.
And that started opening these doors, and I kind of managed to get in with just some really, really cool people. So I wrote and recorded and finished like a full album just for sync.
Okay.
So it's kind of, and I branded it something different because like this in particular, I work really closely with this one producer in LA, and I kind of have for a number of years, but I wanted to distinguish between, like, it's the same stuff, but it's geared towards like what would make the opening sequence in a film. How does the arc of the song work if it's going to go in a trailer? Like on the production side, it's really catered towards that, and I thought it would just be kind of a fun experiment. Like I've never really, my writing is always like, I just sit down, spit something out, and I trust that it's the right thing, and I just record it regardless. And this project is one where I'll go through things and critique and change lyrics. And so I didn't want to confuse it with the Reuben in the Dark stuff. So it's actually called Trust Fall. And we've been releasing that music kind of every time it gets a license or a sync, like every time gets put in a TV show, that's when we'll release the song. So it's kind of fun too, because no record label, no anything, like the pushes behind them. We're just waiting, and when something gets licensed, we'll release the song. And so far we've got lucky. I think we've put out 4 of the songs of like the 12 that we did. So 4 have already been licensed. So I'm really hoping all of them get licensed, because it's a cool release strategy to just let a television show or a film be your release platform. It's like way bigger than having some blog post about it, or a record label push it, or a PR person. Like that's the most natural way to release music.
You write the song from scratch, so there isn't a visual. You don't have a scene and you're writing for that scene. You just, so do you get in your mind, I'm going to write something that could fit a Western, I'm going to write something that could fit an action.
Yeah. And then so that's the, like, I have written some things to briefs and some things like really specifically for it, but we have a general idea. And with this project, we talk to music supervisors, and it's often they'll say, hey, we have like this season, there's like 5 of these thrillers that have like whatever, a male lead overcoming adversity, world ending theme. Like, do you have anything? And so we'll just be like, all right, well, let's write something, some kind of superhero song or whatever. And so far, like almost all of the songs that we've written have ended up somewhere, even though they're not always going in the show that we're trying to pitch it to.
Right. Would you say it's more challenging to write that way, as opposed to, like, would you find it easier to think if you had a visual and go, okay, I need to fit the mood of this?
Well, I think I do that anyway. Like I get I get my own visual, and I try to write it specifically for something, just because otherwise I don't have any compass. You know, if you're like, oh, write a cinematic song, you're like, it's so wide. So I tend to like hone it in, and the producer that I work with is super good, and she edits me like crazy, and I don't have that anywhere in my life artistically. Like I don't have anyone ever saying, oh, like verse 2, I don't know, that doesn't really go with, like, I never have that. So it's kind of, at first I hated it, and there'd be really long periods of time in between sessions, because I would almost get sick to my stomach by like thinking, you know, like I can't be in a room with someone that's gonna try to edit one of my verses or tell me that the chorus doesn't feel right, or you know, I was so in my head. But now that I've changed it from Reuben in the Dark to like its own entity, it's super fun, because then it's a creative writing project, and I actually like to be able to sit back and have a producer say like, oh, try this again, try that again, try this, maybe change, maybe that's not the chorus. And it's become super easy to kind of sit in the room and do it. Like I actually really like it. So what I'm doing this weekend is I'm doing like this kind of intensive, there's a group of writers and producers, and then a ton of music supervisors and networks that were writing over a period of 3 days. A ton of writers, ton of producers, all in this like really small network, kind of just to like make better connections with all of the film supervisors, and there's a bunch of like networks and record labels and stuff involved too. So it's kind of an extension of that. So that's become like a really cool side project of mine.
No kidding.
Yeah.
And you're serving something that's pretty different than what you are with Reuben in the Dark, and that like method of creativity, right?
Yeah, and it's because it's like this extension. Like there's a similar heartbeat to it, but maybe some people would probably hear the music and not even be able to distinguish some of the songs. But to me, I write in character in those songs. Like I try to create a character, and I'm like, okay, like, and then with all of my music, I'm just like, I'm the character, and it's always true to that. But I think sometimes when I write these other songs, like I maybe base some of them off my character too. So there's blurry lines. But it's way easier for me to be, I don't know what the right word is, but more critical and like less precious, which I get in my head so much about music. It's really nice to kind of say like, I don't know, just like write a song in one day. write it, record it, and then be done, you know. I could never do that with a Reuben in the Dark song. Like, I sit with them way too long.
Well, and okay, so you were talking like you've had a lot of success in this entertainment industry on this specific side of things in the last few years. Obviously, you had that cover for the Doolittle movie. Was that in the movie or just the trailer?
I think it was just the trailer,
which was an amazing cover. So do they approach you and say, hey, can you cover this, and you know, we're going to use it for this trailer, and then you have to wait a year and a half for it to come out, or how does it work?
Yeah. Well, that one wasn't, that was suggested. So that was kind of the beginning of this work I do with that producer.
Cool.
Because that was her and I. And we have two different publishing companies, and it came down from somebody that we should, I think one of the publishing companies own the rights to that song. And so like one of the difficult things with covers is that you have to get clearance from whoever owns the original songwriter's publishing. And sometimes that's like an estate or whatever. So that kind of came up, and I didn't think anything of it. Like, that song was completely, this producer, her name's Adrienne Gonzalez. And she was like, let's do this thing. And I sang that thing in I think in one take, and didn't think about it again, in and out. Like, you know, she had kind of mocked up a piano when I came in. I was like, oh, that's cool. And like, I maybe went through it twice, but like minutes. And then it sat for a couple years, and I forget what the first thing was, but it kind of had this trickle, and like, it's ended up in some really crazy places, that tune. Like, it was on America's Got Talent just recently. And I guess that, was it Simon, I forget his name, Cowell?
Yeah.
Cowell, yeah. I got a note from the publisher being like, that this guy had like specifically requested, and they wanted to license it, and they didn't know what they were going to use it, but like this kind of exchange, you know, coming back and thanking us and saying how excited he was about using it. And it ended up being in this like really epic, beautiful kind of glory scene of this choir from New York of nurses during COVID times, and they won the thing. And it was like this epic, but it's bizarre that like that song's gone so far that people are like using it for these really special things now. And not that it wasn't special, like I knew it felt cool to record, and I really felt like we nailed this mood with it, with the music. But I did not think twice about it until like a year or two later, after we'd recorded it. Had no idea it was going to have that kind of life.
And you get endorsed by Simon Cowell later on.
Yeah.
It's a guy you don't want to piss off anyways.
Yeah. He can get you places.
Yeah. He can get pretty critical.
Totally.
What's your philosophy on doing covers? Because you've not only, you know, tackled some covers, but some pretty iconic songs as well. So do you go in thinking, I need to do justice to the heart of this song, or, you know, I got to take this and rewrite it and just make it my own? Like, so It's a Wonderful World, obviously, Bob Cajun, your version of Bob Cajun is absolutely amazing. What are you thinking when you go into those?
The Bob Cajun one, I think that's the first, like I don't even know how to play a cover song. I didn't learn. I probably wrote 50 songs before I even tried to cover like any song. Really? For some reason, I thought it wasn't artistic. Like, I thought if you were, again, like I got into songwriting and playing guitar when I was 21. So I didn't know. I looked around and I saw these people, and I couldn't imagine them. I just thought everyone needed their own lane and their own kind of like gift or inspiration to do it. I wasn't aware that you learned by playing everyone else's songs, which I kind of wish I had done. So it took me like, the first time we ever played a cover song live, I think, was Bob Cajun. And the only reason we did it was Gord had just passed away, and we were about to do a rural Ontario tour. And our shows were selling really well, but I also knew that it was going to be a lot of these people's first time hearing us. Mm-hmm. And I kind of felt like that could be this like sweet gift to the audience, especially because like everyone, like we were playing Bob Cajun, we played The Town, you know, and so I was kind of going through the catalog. Like, that song has always been super special. yeah, I kind of felt like that was a moment that I was like, okay, well, maybe this can be like a connector between us and these really rural people who are probably, there's going to be 50% of the audience at the back with their arms crossed, being like, okay, who are these guys? What are they about? So that one, I think when we sat down to do it, I like drank a bottle of wine and was like, I was pretty like sad getting into the music, and we got the music going, and I think like we recorded it in my basement when I was living outside of Toronto. We probably spent 30 minutes. It was one of those like one microphone and a laptop kind of recordings, and I just sang it exactly the way that I wanted to. You know, I changed things and different melodies and was like, I need to just own this tune, and the lyrics felt like they were super close to my soul, and I think that set a precedent for how I sing anyone else's song now too. Like if I'm going to sing it, it means I can connect to it, and if I can connect to it, I really just try to embody it. And because I would hate to sing a song and then wonder how people thought I sang it.
Mm-hmm.
So I make it, because I don't think that with my own songs. If someone hears one of my tunes and they're like, oh, I think someone else could have sung that better, like I wouldn't receive that information, because in my brain I wrote it and I'm the only and I chose to sing it that way, and there's no other way to sing it for me. You know, someone else can take it and sing it differently, and maybe it sounds beautiful. But I think I do that with cover songs. I try to just like stay in my own lane, so no one can be critical, and if they don't like it, I feel like they just don't like the way I sing or something. You know, I'm not trying to sing it as good as the original. I just try to like really make it my own and make it feel authentic. And I feel like the few cover songs that I've done, like I feel that way about them. And so I've never even wondered, you know, like we did an REM tune, and I know that we have to deal with them and their management and publisher often when it gets synced. So they've heard the song.
Yeah.
But I've never thought like, hey, do they like it? You know, because it doesn't matter to me. I took it, you know, and yeah. I hope they don't dislike it, but I've never felt vulnerable about it, because I think I've like brought it into my own music. And as an artist, you have to put up this weird shield with your own music, or else I would have lost my mind a long time ago. Like wondering what everyone thinks of my songs every time I release something would just like kill me. So I protect the cover songs in my heart the same way I do with my own songs.
When you played in Bob Cajun, were you playing like in the town square? Like was it an outdoor show?
No, it was I forget where it was. It was just outside Bob Cajun.
Okay.
But it was like and it was in a hotel. I think it was the first show on that tour, and the venue, something happened, and last minute we ended up in like a Best Western conference center. So it was like really, and I forget where it was, but it was the town closest to Bob Cajun that had a Best Western.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, and in that moment where we're like, I didn't understand the power of like that song, mm-hmm. and of and of Gord's presence with it, like, because in my mind it was a simple gesture. It was kind of like saying, hey, are we all right with you guys? Like, we'll play a hip song. I didn't imagine it to be this emotional bond. And as we went further on the tour, we started playing it way earlier in the show, because what would happen every night is like people would just go on their own journey, and it was like this healing thing that was happening. Like kind of, I don't know, like maybe them seeing a younger band play the song, but it had the same effect on the audience every single night, where people were just like, I don't know, it was such a connector. And it wasn't even necessarily connecting the audience to us, but it just felt like I don't know, it just became such a beautiful part of that tour. And we stumbled on it. I had no idea it would feel that way to do it. It's a beautiful song though.
Yeah, totally.
I think we've talked about it before, but have you seen the documentary Bob Cajun?
Yeah.
When the Hip played there, I forget, that was maybe like the 25th anniversary, or I forget exactly what the event was, but the Hip played Bob Cajun. So the documentary goes through the whole process of the town going through, can we handle a concert this big? Should we be doing this? People in the town saying, no, we can't. Others fighting for it. It's really well done documentary. Yeah. And then it culminates with them showing a good chunk of the festival.
Yeah.
Well, are we going to get a movie, a documentary on the festival next weekend?
Maybe we'll see, man. It's gonna be it's definitely flying by the seat of my pants, like everything else. So
well, you make it work,
hopefully
dude.
hopefully it all goes. Yeah, that's kind of the thing. It's like you put, and even this, like, I mean, my partner's working with me a lot on it, and she has a lot of pull with different LA bands, and so we've been able to get a pretty cool bill going. But I don't know, there's something fun about putting, like, I think it's the lack of, I normally have tour dates on my calendar, you know, that you just have it stacked ahead, and there's always this nervousness of, can we pull it off? Is it going to be, you know, there's always so many variables in every single show that we have ever played. There's just so many variables. And there's something nice about always having this thing ahead of you that kind of scares the shit out of you. Even if it's just a little bit, like it's, you know, whether it's like a festival that you've never done before, and you're like, I don't know how we're going to do it, but we're going to do it. Or if it's scheduling a concrete truck to show up at 6 a.m, 2 weeks from now, and you're like, I don't know how to do it yet, but I have 2 weeks until the truck shows up.
Yeah.
Like I get a kick out of that kind of stuff. Like putting some like timelines into, because it turns into, it always works, you know. And even if I've had everything fall apart, and I know what that feels like, and
yeah,
it's still manageable, you know. The first time I had a concrete truck out here, it got stuck in the yard for 3 hours, and the concrete hardened in the truck, like disaster, you know. Like I've had, you know, the power cut out in the middle of a show, you know, with thousands of people, and like it's all happened already. So like, I don't know, I like that kind of stuff. And it's, I mean, the older I get, the scarier it all is, you know, because you're just like, can I keep doing this stuff? Like at some point, is something really gonna break?
Well, if we can get into some good specifics. You posted a picture about a week ago of you in a forest.
Yeah.
And you said, you know, there were so many things that went wrong. You just decided to drive home through every national park possible. So impossible logistics, a week of canceled shows, canceled plans. What exactly was the scenario last week that led to you driving through all these national parks?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I can actually talk about it. Maybe. So I kind of like, so there was a number of things. So the first substantial thing was that we had a series of shows cancel in 24 hours. One of them was the reason that we went to Alberta, and that was like this festival in Jasper. That was the anchor for us coming down. It was the anchor financially and also kind of emotionally, because it was going to be a really sweet show. Like we went and played this small festival outside of Edmonton. There was like kind of this last minute community focused kind of cultural. It was really, really beautiful. But it wasn't a typical show that we would play. It was kind of, they offered and we were going to be in the area. And so we went and did it. And it felt like a warm up for the real, you know, big festival play. And I think monitoring all the COVID stuff and some announcements came out in Jasper, like the hospitals were at 95% capacity, and the promoters and everyone involved just decided that it would be best if we didn't do it, to put the stress on the healthcare people, because it was going to bring a pretty big like influx of humans into the park, without a hospital if anything else went wrong, or, you know. But another thing, so this is the part that I feel like I should, like, just because this, so I bought a vehicle. I bought this like dream vehicle.
Oh boy. Are you going to tell us what it is?
Well, I don't know, because that would kind of like,
we could bleep it out.
I feel like, just because the dealer has been so sweet to us after the whole disaster, and it's a brand new vehicle, and I've never owned a brand new vehicle in my life, and I was like, hey, and I just was like, I'm gonna finance this thing, and it's supposed to be the most indestructible off-roading vehicle made in 2021.
Oh my god!
And I destroyed it in 24 hours.
What?
And it was like this dream thing of like, we were gonna come out, like all this stuff, and I was like really excited because we live in the desert, and I've just kind of got like turned on to the fact that there are like hundreds of miles of sand roads going places that you can't go with a vehicle, and this thing like it's just going to be a game changer for living down here and like camping and exploring. And so it was like within 24 hours, this vehicle got dusted, and it was also very expensive. And I've never like done something like that before, you know, although it's financing and whatever, but it's still like really out of my zone to do something like that. And then we not only had Jasper cancel, but a handful of these private shows that were kind of going to like finance my life for the next 6 months, all in 24 hours. And it was all COVID related for the shows. And I totally understand. And I'm, you know, it's the way things are still going, which is really unfortunate. But it felt like such a hit. And so we were just going to fly home. And then I was speaking to the dealer, and they very like generously just gave us a vehicle. And they're like, I think because they didn't want the word to get out that this vehicle is destructible.
Now we don't have to talk about the vehicle make or model or anything, but what specifically were you doing that this vehicle couldn't keep up with?
I shouldn't talk about that.
Did you take it into a lake?
I'm picturing you driving through the like up mountains and plowing through trees.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But I mean, so as you would do with a vehicle that is indestructible, you're like, all right, let's test it out. Let's test this thing out. So we had plans to immediately. It was like pretty crushing, all of these things all at the same time. And this summer has kind of been like that. Like it's been hard for everybody, but so many things, so much work, so many plans, so many people involved in a number of different things that we've done. And we've had to face like last minute cancellations that have just kind of rocked everything, and you just have to proceed. And so this was another one of those moments. And I went and met with the dealer, and they kind of gave us a bunch of different options. And then I just asked like, hey, can you just take another vehicle off your lot and plate it? And can we just have it? Because we were going to drive, you know, we were like looking forward to driving this thing home. And and because we didn't have to do the festival, I didn't have to be back here. Originally, we were going to play the festival and bolt straight to LA to do these sessions. But because the festival canceled, we all of a sudden had 5 days to drive home. And so, we just like really enjoyed it and soaked it up and spent every day. We got a national park pass, and so you can go to all the national parks, and made our way down south. And and really made the most of it. As heartbreaking as a lot of it was, like I look back at the trip now and I remember all of the sweet stuff, and it's funny how you can kind of shake off the negative sometimes. Even though I thought I would be back home like cursing everything that went wrong, like it's all fine.
Your perspective sounds very good.
Yeah. I mean, it has to be. Yeah. And maybe that's like, because I don't know, it's like dangerous going the other way, you know, because the other side of it, like I feel it even when, you know, and I feel for so many people in the same situation, like artists. We were on like the swing, you know, we were doing like the album tour. Our shows were selling out. COVID canceled our tour at the moment we were about to do this like pretty big supporting tour for this US band with all these sold out shows. We never get to play to big audiences in the States. You know, it was like just about to happen. We had a summer of festivals. We had a tour in Japan, and another one that was like getting booked for the spring, I guess, in Europe, you know, like all of these things where everything was like, we had put out a record and things were momentum was starting and everyone was feeling good. The band was playing super well. Our shows started to feel like really magical. And then it just like cut. And it hurts for like, just losing that inertia is really confusing, but also when you realize how many months of work went into releasing an album that is supposed to last a year and a half. Like you do all of that work so you can kind of like do your big release things and then kind of ride the wave. Mm-hmm. And having that wave just like hit a brick wall is super scary as an artist, being like, okay, like, so we got to do that again.
Yeah.
You know, and hope, you know, because we like, there's another record that's getting mixed right now. And we didn't really get to finish touring our last record, but we can't really pick it up either because things move so fast these days. And I also don't want to wait on it because I have, you know, more music. And but there's a lot of things where, you know, I had moments midway through, I was like, well, maybe this is it. Maybe that was the peak. And like, we don't pick up. And maybe this shift of like me writing sync music is going to be, you know, because it's easy to get like, it's a scary thing being a musician, an artist, a touring band, someone that's trying to sell records these days. Like, to throw anything in front of that to stop it, because it's already so hard to just get a little bit of momentum going.
Yeah.
And I know so many people are in the same situation. So many people, like, at least we got to finish our headline tour, because we did. We played the very last show of our headline tour, and got canceled right after that. So I feel super lucky to have done that. But
got
at
to
the same
spend
time,
some time with the record at least.
Yeah.
Time at home.
We got to do. Yeah.
Who was the American band that you guys were about to tour with? Do you remind me?
Yeah, it was Mondo Cosmo.
Right. Yes. Yeah. He's
he
kind
of really, had like a
really nice guy.
Yeah, super nice dude. And had like a huge hit. He's a great guy, and good story too, of like someone that has just put in so much time, and then it kind of just like snapped for him, you know, a couple of years ago, where he finally kind of got like, you know, because he's in his late 30s, and to have your kind of like first, I think it's like his first record he put out as a solo, kind of his own gig, you know. Pretty cool. I love seeing stories like that.
Do you live close to him?
But, yeah, I don't know where he is now. I know he used to be in LA.
Right. Okay. I talked to him
last year,
I talked to him like a couple months after the pandemic started. I completely forgot about that until now, but yeah, I remember him telling me rather about how you were down in the state. Were you in like Chicago with him, or about to head to Chicago with him?
Yeah. I think the first one was Boston.
Right. And then did he not like? I should have gone back and listened to it, but I seem to remember him telling me that he was like, shit, like if these guys don't get out of here now, they might not get out at all.
Mm-hmm. No, it was tough. Like the worst thing about that is, so we played, our last headline show was in Nelson, in BC, and our first show joining them was in Boston. Mm-hmm. So we deadheaded, and we only had, I think, 2 days. I think the show was 2 days later. So we drove, I don't know how far that is, but I'm pretty sure it's like a 4-day drive that we did in 2 days straight. And like every hour that passed, we were getting these updates of all this stuff happening. And we were all just like, no, believe in it. It's going to be good. Everything's going to be good. And the closer we got, and we got there and canceled. Like we did the whole, like, otherwise everyone just could have like hung out in BC for a while.
Yeah.
But we drove so focused all the way to Boston from Nelson, BC, which is got to be like a 50-hour drive.
So how many, I've done some drives like that, not quite like that, but I want to know the logistics of how that worked. Like any like stopping overnight anywhere, or it was just a rotating crew of drivers? How did that work?
Yeah, I mean, I think the last night we just drove through, and we would stop and sleep for a couple hours. But yeah, because we had about 6 people and a van that you can kind of sleep in at the same time as you're driving. But yeah, I'm pretty, like, I don't recall exactly where it was, because I think we ended up going up through Detroit across the border when we called it. But whatever it was, we had driven a ridiculous amount of time in a short time period to not play, you know, and instead of just like waiting it out, although if we would have waited it out and it was good to go, there's no way of getting to Boston in time to play the show. So I think in good faith, we were like, well, we'll show up. And but we ended up canceling ahead of it, like before it was officially canceled. Like I know that he decided he was still going to play the show solo and not with the band, and have some special requirements. And he was like, I mean, I get it. Like the last thing you want to do is cancel a show and you don't know what's going on. So he was kind of like, hey, the band's not going to be on the stage. I'm going to play it solo. And then as we were driving, you know, we're hearing all of this narrative from everybody, and was like, can we really be posting things right now being like, hey, everyone who's coming to the show tonight? So we ended up just being like, no, we got to back out. And then and then they canceled all the shows shortly after, maybe like a couple hours after, I think, because all the states just mandated it, but it's trippy time, man. Like everyone, like there's a part of all of our spirits that is locked in that moment, and I sense it so much. Like when the band got back together, it was the first time we'd all been in the same room, since that van, and there's a part of us that is like still in that van at that moment where you're like, is this really happening?
Yeah.
Like we've never missed a show before, and then to have those weeks and months and even into the summer when the festival dates would come up and you're at home and you have this weird energy, like I'm supposed to be on a stage right now. Like it's like this weird nightmare. Like, why am I not at Mariposa, or why am I not at Winnipeg Folk Fest, or why, like, it's, am I going crazy? Is it like, is the festival actually happening? Am I losing my mind? Why am I sitting in a room, in the middle of nowhere? Like, I've never experienced those feelings. Like it's this ghost of, I don't know.
It's also been a while since you're hanging out at Beau's, right? Like we're nearing 2 years at this point, if I'm not mistaken.
I think so, yeah. Because it wasn't that we didn't catch it, I don't think, on, or did we play it on the last album tour?
I believe
so.
I believe it would have been.
I remember. Yeah, I remember the show. I just can't remember if it was in that tour, because we did a mini little tour.
Maybe was that
a little bit before it?
Yeah.
It was in that time frame. I was like, yeah,
for sure.
So one of the things, and such a magical moment at Beau's when you're out in the crowd and you've got everybody all around you, just going through everything that we've gone through over the last little while. Do you feel comfortable doing that again in your live shows and being it?
Yeah, man, I don't know. Like I've played a couple things since. Yeah, and it's strange. I'm not sure. I think that for a while it'll definitely be. We'll have to approach it differently, but I love that element of it, and not just the closeness, and I like getting in there. It changes the show for me every time. Like I'm always kind of finding some excuse to just like get in there with people, because it makes me more comfortable too. But yeah, no, I don't imagine that being a possibility for a while.
I'm still a big believer in the Wayne Coyne Flaming Lips inflatable.
Yeah.
Like still, like I want to experience it myself now too. So I think we should just go for it for a little while.
Yeah. While it's like a novelty thing, I think that could be really cool. Like it would be depressing if that was a mandate for performing, but while it's
new norm,
everyone kind of gets to do it once, I think would be super exciting for every single person, at least the band. Like this show would probably suck, but
what are the acoustics like from inside an inflatable ball?
Yeah, can't be.
Well, if everybody's going to like do the in-ears, right? If everybody's got in-ears or something, I don't know. Let's hope it doesn't get to that. You had mentioned you were in Canada twice recently, or for two separate things. So the Jasper thing didn't work out really well, but you did do something really cool in Quebec, which ties in your passion with skateboarding as well. So you did a project where you brought skateboards to Indigenous youth in northern Quebec.
Yeah. Beautiful weekend. And that was kind of what I was referencing as to us having to really roll with the uncertain landscape of COVID, because what we had planned to do there was very different than what we did. We were supposed to be a part of a much bigger weekend. We've done a bunch of work there in the past. So we got invited there maybe 3 years ago by some people who came out to a show when we were in like rural Quebec. And we played this festival de Manawan. Super cool. And we bonded with all these people, and we're like, oh, let's figure out a way to come back. And we came back again in the winter and did some stuff with this powwow drumming group, which was super rad. And we've all kind of kept in touch with a lot of people there. And when I was coming back up to Canada, we started throwing some ideas around of like, well, let's come up again and do all these things. And it kind of snowballed our little like committee that we had put together with some people in the town and myself. It snowballed into this really amazing event, and I was super excited about it. The town decided to open up, have a powwow, which would bring in probably like 3,000 people. It's this kind of massive dance competition. Super colorful, super fun, tons of kids. The town put together this like production stage. So we were going to play a concert at the end of the festival, at the end of the powwow. And we had coordinated with all these people. There's going to be all these collaborations. It was, I mean, whatever. I was really, really excited about it. And as I flew to Montreal, I got a phone call saying that there was 5 cases of COVID. And because the 3,000 people were all coming from more northern and remote villages and communities and reservations with no healthcare, they canceled the whole thing. And so this is while, are you still there?
Yeah, we're good.
Battery. So this is while everyone's getting on airplanes to come out. And I overbooked myself with it, and I was starting to get a bit panicky. And so I called on like my brothers, my mom and dad to be like, I need help. I've like bit off something a little too big for myself, and I needed support because we were going there to not only do this performance, but speaking with the community. And like there was an interest. There's like lots of kids that had like skateboards around. There's nowhere to skateboard, but like kids are all carrying skateboards in Manawan. Tons of kids interested in music. So I like did some fundraisers, raised all this money, bought a ton of guitars. You know, I got a great like a school discount from this company in Quebec, and then another company in Alberta, skateboard shop, Shreds from Cochrane. They hooked me up with a staff discount or like cost on a bunch of skateboards from Marathon Trading in Montreal. So showed up with all of this stuff. Not only did the festival cancel, our partners who were supposed to come build all the skateboard ramps had some family crisis, couldn't make it. So I'm like, shit, festival's canceled. Last minute, the town kind of gave us this arena, and then we still had all these kids that were like looking forward to doing these workshops. We had them all sign up in advance. But that was supposed to just be on the heels of like this big community event. And I had all of these people coming in, and like, so we got in and spent until like 2 a.m. building a skateboard park, like a mini little thing in this arena, and super scattered because everything had changed, and we were monitoring it as we went. And but it ended up being so beautiful. Another part of it was doing a tribute. I mean, yesterday was the 1-year memorial, I guess, I don't know, anniversary doesn't sound like the right word, of Joyce Echequan, who's from Manawan, who died in a hospital while Facebook living her abuse by the healthcare workers.
Yeah.
So that's this town. And so another part of this, when we started arranging everything, is I pitched the idea to do a mural, including these artists from Vancouver and a couple local artists, and was just like, oh, it'd be cool to just make art. And then the assistant chief and a couple of other people said like, hey, well, can we do a mural to honor Joyce? And so there was a number of things happening on this weekend that felt like they had a lot of meaning to them. And even though everything canceled around it, there was just this like force that was like, no, go. I don't know what's going to happen, but I just couldn't not go, you know, even though I thought we were going to show up and there was going to be nobody and it was going to be a waste and we should have just rescheduled. We spent 2 days in this arena, and all these kids came in, and like all these like young Indigenous girls learning how to skateboard and so into it. And on the second day, it kind of caught on, and all these teenagers just started showing up with electric guitars and amps, and it turned into this kind of like big, like Pink Floyd jam. Like everyone, it was really awesome. So like you had all these guys that just like, oh, like we can play music in here, and showed up with all their guitars and amps, and then all these like mostly girls that really got into the skateboarding and riding on these ramps, and then these artists all and community people all painting this like beautiful tribute, massive mural for Joyce. And it wasn't at all what we were planning on doing, but stepping back and looking at it, and it's like, it was such a beautiful thing. And I'm glad that it happened that way, because in my mind, I thought we could have done all of this stuff in the day following the festival, but in reality, like we needed that much time to just have open doors so the community can kind of get used to it too. But so now we're planning next year, and putting more work into it. And now we kind of know like, okay, this is what happens when everything goes wrong. you can still make something good out of it. Because like literally that's only the tip of it. Everything in advance like failed last minute before we went out there. But it was still like a beautiful.
It doesn't matter to those kids now, right? Those kids have an unbelievable memory of that weekend.
Totally.
Plus, you've got more material to write on now.
And for sure. Yeah. No, it's all good. It's all good things. Yeah. But it just doesn't always go the way you think it's going to go.
All right. Well, speaking of the way things are going to go or not going to go, you said that you've got new music being mixed for Reuben in the Dark.
Yeah, you want to know something funny?
I do.
As far as like things not going,
there's a theme here.
Yeah, no, there is. Like, it's crazy. It's this. I don't know if you guys ever deal with this, or anyone who's listening. But at what point you start deciding that the universe is like telling you to not proceed, or whether it is like challenging you to see how resilient you are.
Oh,
you know, like where you draw that line to be like, is this telling me I should stop, or is this testing my character and I need to keep going? Because there's been a lot of stuff like that lately. But our mixer, I was waiting for we're on song number 4, getting like mixed, the final mix, as he's going through the record, and instead of sending the rough for me to like listen to and give notes on, he sent a picture of his hand in a cast with pins coming out of his fingers.
Oh God.
The guy that's mixing our record, Graham Lassard, and he was like out for a jog before he went into the studio, and with a little golden doodle puppy, and got crossed up in a leash and slipped on leaves and broke his fingers. I was like, oh my God. But he's back. He's back at it today. So that was 2 days ago, but the record is getting mixed right now. So that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, that's very exciting. So you guys are like, you settled. You're gonna move forward as a band. You've got a new record. I'm assuming hopefully next year sometime.
Yeah.
All right.
And I mean, I'd like to just like put it out, but we have we're booking up for the summer festivals already.
Cool.
So.
I was reading an interview of yours where you talked about the song selection process, and I read a couple interviews, I think from different years, where you talked about bringing like 100 songs to the process and then filtering a bunch of them out. Is that still how you do things with Reuben in the Dark?
Kind of, yeah. Not that many, although I don't know, like it's like right now I'm in my head, like I need to make another record immediately because of the songs that didn't go on this record.
Right.
I'd spent a lot of time writing, and I like have a really hard time throwing out ideas.
Mm-hmm.
So you kind of just end up in that spot, which is why I like that sync writing so much better, because I can throw something out and never think about it again.
Yeah.
You know, but with my stuff, where I'm like waking up in the morning and writing a riff or writing a lyric or a verse they just float around forever until they end up in a song. Like I can never just kill them.
So in that process, you were quoted as saying something to the effect of like, does the song give you the shivers, give you the chills?
Yeah. Right.
And I love that. I really connect with that. But I wanted to know, outside of your own music, where that is the goal to some effect, what are those? Can you name a song or two that consistently, like no fail, has provided you with those chills, those shivers in your lifetime?
Like from another artist? Just like listening and
so I think we all have at least one of those. We have to. Right?
Yeah. No, definitely. I mean, there's probably a good handful of them. I don't know. I mean, I think it comes down to there's lots of songs that give me shivers. I think that maybe I'm thinking about like, what's a song I thought I wish I had written, or I don't know. It's hard to drop one.
Do you have one?
I think about.
What were some of the songs that got you into music in the first place when you were a kid? What was some of your earliest things that you'd listen to?
I think like before I started playing guitar, I was really into like hip hop, and kind of more on the side of like like not conscious, but like more poetic hip hop stuff. Maybe it's not poetic, but like I would really dig into lyrics, and I love storytelling, and I was always just constantly listening to what people were saying. And I think the first lyricist that really grabbed me was Connor Oberst with Bright Eyes, where I felt like he had a filter where everything he said, he didn't have a lot of filler. He like kind of didn't have any filler in my perspective. Like every line seemed really, really intentional, and he had a lot of drama and a lot of like, he had a certain way of making you rethink a very simple term where he would just flip it. You know, he would challenge a lot of just like phrases, and it was kind of this playful, poetic way of making you think about a simple concept kind of flipped on its back. So he definitely, I think when I first started writing, I had this feeling like I was like, I want to write as powerful as that. I want people to like hear a lyric and for it to sit with them for a couple days, even if it's just one line, like not a whole song, but just like a line that maybe they spin and they think about and then they understand something else differently because of it, or just like chewing on words. I find like I do that with songs I really like I'll just take a verse and it'll be spinning in my head for so long. I just like love a good verse. So that definitely was a heavy influence, kind of immediately, like maybe even before I had written a song. I went to a Bright Eyes concert before I played anything, and I was like, had this dream of like him asking me to come up on the stage and like take his guitar and play a song, and being like, I don't have a song. I don't have like the one song that I could do that. Like I need that. I need my one song that if for whatever dream like scenario, the spotlight comes down on me, it's just like, Reuben, do you want to play a song in front of everybody? Like, what would I play? What would be important enough that I could go up there and feel like I'm going to pick one? And so I feel like from that point, I consistently started trying to write. Like if someone's like, hey, what do you got? Like play one song for me. It's like, I've been chasing that one song ever since. I just want that one song, you know, and I haven't written it yet. Like I still don't have it. If he pulled me up onto the stage, be like, play one song for everybody. I'm like, I can't choose. I don't have the, you know, like I don't have the tune yet.
And it won't be a cover.
No, it won't be
at least not back then.
Yeah, no, definitely. I'm like, no, that would be a struggle.
I mean, that's a good goal to not lose sight of, right?
Yeah.
It's not a bad thing to not have achieved yet, because in the pursuit of that, I mean, the doors should just, the doors remain open, right? If you've reached that point, then I can understand questioning even more realistically if you've peaked, but I don't think you have. So
no, I don't think so either, because I still have that. I wake up every morning being like, okay, like that song is like at my fingertips. I'm constantly not critical of every song I've ever written, but I know that it's just like the steps towards the writing that I'm about to do. So as long as I have that, I'm going to keep going. Because that's the thing. I mean, I would hate to get to a spot where I'm writing songs because I'm supposed to. Right. Like I write them because I'm like still digging for that song that is going to somehow represent my whole spirit, and I can just strum the chord and sing the first line, and I'm like, this is it, you know.
Where are you, Connor?
Waiting for that. Yeah. Totally. I'm ready.
Well, I'm really excited to see what you've got going on, you and the band, and also this Trust Fall project. I didn't know that you had a separate name for it. It sounds amazing. It sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, it definitely has been.
And we can't wait to see you back at Bose, whether we're in bubbles or not in bubbles, but it's truly a
I will be in
experience.
a bubble. I will be in a bubble.
Yeah, do it. I might be too, even if we don't need to, just for that. We'll do that one novel show. It'll happen at
I mean, Wayne Coyne Bose and the Flaming Lips can't be the only ones to get away with doing that for the last 25 years or whatever it is.
We got to help normalize it.
Yeah, totally.
I'm down.
I do want to know, is there anything you've been listening to lately that you want to share? Anything from that you've been really digging? You think our listeners should dig into too?
Yeah. I wonder what my playlist looks like. I listen to the same stuff I've listened to for so long. I've really been digging and I don't know why I didn't listen to him for a long time, but Leif Vollebeck.
Okay.
Just like really like sensitive, beautiful music. I've been like listening to a lot of sensitive music these days, it seems. Not very rock and roll, but yeah, another record that I've been listening to a lot is like kind of in a similar vein. Tim Baker.
Mm-hmm.
He's an East Coast lad. Great guy, but yeah, I mean, I liked his music, and we know each other, and I like him. But I saw him in LA opening up solo, I think for maybe Half Moon Run a while ago, and I was so moved by like how powerful he was live, that it changed the way I thought about his songs. Like he's one of the greats of our time, and I think he's going to be around a long time, writing really, really good tunes. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, like honestly, I've been listening to a ton of instrumental music just to get out of everything. I've been in such writing and building and creating mode that music has kind of been more like soundscape, landscape stuff, background of just like getting in the right moods for everything. But I think I mostly honestly just I listen to so many like female singer-songwriters, all that whole wave of like Phoebe Bridgers or like what's that other band that is really awesome. I can't think of the name at the moment.
It's all good, man.
They just did a little private show that I ended up like classic Big Thief. They did a show at a friend's house out here the other night, and just like a private little thing, and we were invited to it. And there's something about when the sun goes down here, like you turn into such a. It was at like 9 p.m. Like I love that band. Like, it's like 20 people in a house there prepping for the tour, and
oh my god,
we didn't go. We like drank a glass of wine and like went to sleep, and then the next morning I was like, man, we really should have gone, because I like listen to those tunes all the time. But that's classic. Like some of my favorite music, like that this band Phosphorescent, and the song for Zula was one of those songs with me where I was like, fucking, it's so beautiful, and it just moved me. We played a festival with like Edward Sharpe and Mumford & Sons and those guys, and I was so excited because that was the song that was like soundtracking my life. And I heard it play when I was in like an outhouse, probably 300 feet away from it. Heard it starting, and then the band, we were gonna play, because we played this after party thing, and they're like, hey, we're gonna go into town and get some food, and I just went with them. In the middle, like at the beginning of the song that was like my soundtrack life song, me hearing 20 seconds of it in an outhouse, it did it for me. I was like, I was fulfilled. I didn't even look at the band, but I was like, oh, this is awesome. Like, yeah, let's go get some food. Like I don't receive music in the same way as a lot of people. Like I just need little bits of it, which is funny that I ask people to come to my shows and stay the whole time. But I'm trying to be more gentle with like when I see someone walk out in the middle of a show, that's me. And I'm walking out because like I just fully enjoyed myself, and I actually don't need the full experience. Like I just needed that bit of a lift, and I wanted to hear it and see it for a few minutes and carry on. But yeah, I interact with music in a strange way sometimes.
Well,
love that.
Next time you're in town, we would love to talk about that some more and have you in the new studio here.
Nice. Well, yeah, I appreciate you guys having me on the show.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, man. It's nice to see you, and we'll be in touch soon. Good luck with the studio sessions.
Yeah, well, we'll definitely be back there. So whenever it's possible, we will return.
All right, sounds good, Reuben. Thanks a lot, man.
Thanks, man.
All right.
Peace.
Cool. Thank you, guys. Okay, take it easy.
I'm proud of you.
Why?
So in the intro to this, we talked about baseball quite a bit. There's one thing for sure that I thought you were going to bring up with Reuben that you did not.
Oh.
Is he's a Leafs fan.
Yes, I did know that.
The Toronto Maple Leafs did not come up once during that conversation.
It was noted.
I'm proud of you.
Well, I don't think there's anything to be proud of, because you see, there was a picture he posted recently. Is it that one you brought up in the interview?
Honestly, actually, it was that one.
And
yes.
He's wearing a Leafs cap.
He's wearing a Leafs cap. Yeah.
Just means he's a normal dude. That's all it is.
But how's a guy from Calgary?
Because he's from Calgary. Who are you going to cheer for?
Good point.
Edmonton?
What have you got to cheer for?
Flames? No, absolutely not.
I just expected a good 15 minutes of that chit chat to be about the Leafs, and it wasn't. So
no, I'll try to refrain from that. The season is starting soon, though, so we'll see how that affects things.
Yeah.
But that was a great chat. I mean, I wanted to invite ourselves to this compound.
I want to be at that festival.
Yeah, I
like
know.
that sounds amazing.
And I just love the idea of getting up in the morning, and I wanted to ask him if he thinks it's like if there's any like destructive
getting
part of it,
some angst out,
but getting up and just like he said, destroying something and then having to replace it.
Yeah,
I think it's an interesting topic.
But I still think there's a lot of kind of healing process through that
totally
as well, and
it's
still and it's creating. I kind of wanted to ask him a little bit too, and we didn't get into it, but just the similarities between building and doing all that he's doing with that renovating to creating and crafting the songs. I imagine there's probably a lot of.
I just can't believe he didn't start playing music until he's 21.
21. What is the deal with? That's crazy.
It's weird. It's pretty impressive. So check out Reuben and The Dark. And if you haven't checked out Reuben and The Dark, there's a good chance that you've heard them or Reuben himself on a television show or a movie that you've watched in the last few years, because it sounds like that gig is going real well too.
I love that he's got that separated into two.
Yeah, very good idea.
Things.
I wonder at what point, and I did want to ask him, I kind of forgot about it, but at what point do you start considering yourself as a composer of sorts?
Yeah.
In that process,
yeah,
making music specifically for visual scenes to help add to emotion in a scene.
And it's funny because there are so many that do, like Slash, I know, does a lot of work.
Really?
Yeah, for horror films. Scores a lot of horror films and whatnot. And as you had mentioned in there, we talked to Newman from the Matchstick Skeletons, who also does a lot of that as well. And honestly, like I think there's creative outlet for it, but I think part of it too is that stuff pays the bills. Right,
totally,
there is some pretty good money to be made in that.
Big time. Well, that was a great chat. Thanks for joining us, Pete.
Are we sick of each other? Is that you've taken about as much of me as you can?
No, you got a baseball game.
I do have a baseball game I got to get to.
Can you believe we started the show and you were anxious about a baseball game? It's now an hour and 15 minutes later, and you still haven't gotten to your game.
It was like game 156.
Oh God, what will I do if I miss this baseball game? This game of catch.
I'm out. When do we do? Oh, we got a couple of thanks.
Communal Creative Studios, Ryan and Ryley. Shout out. Thank you.
Go Services Inc.
Bose Barn Stage.
Sawback Brewery. Tourism Red Deer.
Thank you. And follow.
Patrick Bateman.
Subscribe. Watch. View. Download. Stream. Weezer. For getting a win. What the hell does a W mean? Producer Ryan is giving. Anyways. I don't know.
Okay, this is taking up valuable baseball time.
I know what
I'm out. When's the net? What?
Wednesday.
The Road, the Stage is produced by Ryan Kuly and Ryley Surian. Recorded in Red Deer, Alberta, and in partnership with Bose Bar and Stage, Troubled Monk, and Tourism Red Deer. The Road, the Stage.